Hi, this is Harrison Page. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson with a reminder that Emmy Award-winning actress Mariette Hartley will join us later on in the hour. Mariette co-wrote, co-produced, and stars in a delightful new movie that also features a cast of many other movie and TV favorites. We'll tell you all about that when Mariette Hartley joins us later on in this hour. Hope you'll stay tuned for that. In the meantime, on the line with us right now is Howard Smith. For 2 decades, Howard shared an extraordinary friendship with Johnny Carson, not the legendary Tonight Show host Johnny Carson, but the Johnny Carson who lived 4 doors down from him, and a man with whom he shared a wonderful friendship that spanned many hours of playing tennis, having dinner and drinks, sharing quiet moments, talking about life, and busting each other's chops as good friends often do. Howard shares many stories of the Johnny Carson he knew in a new book, My Friend Johnny, The Last 20 Years of a Beautiful Life with Johnny Carson and Friends, which you can find right now, Amazon.com, wherever books are sold online, as well as myfriendjohnny.com. Before we went to break, we were talking to Howard about how he came to know NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Fran Tarkenton in the course of his career as a software salesman and entrepreneur, and how Tarkenton upheld a promise to speak to Howard's company on a Monday morning in January that happened to be the Monday after Tarkenton and his Minnesota Vikings lost the Super Bowl to the Oakland Raiders. As we pick up the conversation, this means what it means. It's easy to say he lost the Super Bowl 3 times, but the way I look at it is he got his team to the Super Bowl 3 times. When the whistle blows and the game starts, you can't control how the outcome's going to go, but the fact is, 3 times he got his team to be one of the final 2 teams to play for the championship. Not every quarterback can say that.
Yeah. And he benefited that he had that show with John Davison, which was very successful. Mm-hmm. And then he did Monday Night Football.
That's right, he did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he did Monday Night Football. And then this is the interesting thing of this story is that I came home that night, and I went, right to bed, and then I had to get up. So I didn't talk to my wife at all. She was a school teacher, high school teacher in L.A. And so the next night, about 5:00, I get a call from Fran, and Fran says, "Hey Howard, I rented a place in Florida, in Mexico, and I have a plane. Why don't you and Jane fly down to Mexico and spend a week with us down in Mexico?" And I didn't talk to my wife yet, and I said, "Well, I don't know. She's got she teaches school. She's going to have to take off Friday to go with you." And so I said to her, "Hey, can you get off?" I said, "Why?" Because Fran wants to go fly us down to Mexico and spend a week there with them, which is very nice. And anyway, he was, and I say this, I think, in the book, and he's still probably one of the best salesmen I've ever seen. He loved to sell.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing stuff now in Atlanta. He still lives in Atlanta. And he did read the book. He felt really honored about being in the book.
The book is My Friend Johnny, The Last 20 Years of a Beautiful Life with Johnny Carson and Friends, by our guest Howard Smith, myfriendjohnny.com, as well as Amazon.com. Okay, I was delighted. I mentioned this before we started recording. I'll say this again. I was delighted to read that one of the people you write about, whose friendship you remember, is an actor named Lloyd Haynes. Now, most of my listeners know Lloyd Haynes best as Pete Dixon on Room 222.
22.
Yeah, I know him because he worked a lot of Quinn Martin shows before and after Room 222. He was a working actor at a time when there were not a lot of prominent black actors headlining network TV shows. Lloyd Haynes paved the way in a lot of ways. And how'd you first get to meet Lloyd Haynes?
That's a good question. I think it was. Oh no, excuse me. I'll take it all back. Oh, excuse me. No, that's not. I met Lloyd in Mexico.
Okay.
At Cabo, down in Mexico. Another friend and I go down to Mexico, and we're spending like 3 or 4 days there. And I happen to be on the beach, and he's sitting next to me on the beach. And at that time the show just started, and so I said, "Are you, Lloyd Haynes?" "Yeah, right." And so for some reason he goes like, "Well, Howard, tonight, won't we, have lunch or dinner, and we'll go over to this bar and all that." And so that's how we met on a beach in Mexico. And this is where, for some reason, he and I hit it off. And so he goes like, "Okay, Howard, when you come back, let's get together." And he lived in this little house off Wilshire Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And I would go over there, and we would, spend time talking about different things. And then, he started to go with this girl, and he was going to get married to her. And he says to me, "Howard, I'd like to have you be the best man." And I was the best man, and I used to take my parents, my aunt and uncle, to see his show, when he was doing Route 22, mm-hmm. and he would introduce us to all the people there. And Lloyd was, we would spend a lot of time together. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'd go to a lot of parties, and people didn't know him that well. He also flew his own plane. So one time we flew up to San Francisco, and we spent a couple nights up there. And then we went skiing one time, and then he moved down to San Diego, and he became health-wise. He had cancer, and he died about 6 months after having this cancer. And the thing that I did not know is that he had a military people there, that when he was in the service, that he did something that was, this guy said, I can't tell you what it was, but he was a very special person for the military. And he said, I can't convey what it is. But
because what he did in the military was still classified information, so it could not be revealed to the public.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And like I say, I knew Lloyd probably 20 years, and I didn't know any of this. I knew he was in the service, mm-hmm. Because I was in the service too. But and he was representing, in the service, he was, selling people to join the service. Okay, and as you hit it on the nose, is that there was only one guy at that time, was a black guy, that was he had his own show that was famous like Lloyd. I forget, it was 2 names. It was a white guy and a black guy.
Oh, it's probably you're probably thinking about Cosby.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Cosby headlined I Spy with Robert Culp.
Right, exactly right. And they were at that time like the two big stars, mm-hmm. and they were black too, and that was like that was really something special.
Lloyd Haynes is one of the many people that Howard Smith writes about, shares memories about in his new book, My Friend Johnny, Last 20 Years of a Beautiful Life with Johnny Carson and Friends. My Friend Johnny, available Amazon.com, where books are sold online, as well as myfriendjohnny.com. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hello, this is Robert Wagner, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
Okay, last question for now, and I say for now because I have a feeling later on in the year we're going to have another conversation about Johnny, because even though the book is called My Friend Johnny, we've only scratched the surface of Johnny Carson, because there's a lot more to your life than the fact that you were close friends with Johnny Carson for 20 years, Howard. But last question for now. Calendar year 2025 marks the 20th anniversary of Johnny Carson's passing. How do you think your friend John would like to be remembered?
Oh, let me tell you. Well, it's interesting because that's a question when I was doing this, Alex didn't really want me to do this.
Alex being Johnny Carson's widow, Alexis Moss.
She heard the podcast and said, I didn't like you doing that. And we haven't actually talked to Alex since then. And I was with John's nephew who runs everything, Jeff. I forget Jeff's last name.
It begins with an S, and I'll fill that in. I'll fill that in post-prod.
S.
Jeff Zotzing.
And he runs everything for Dodge now. And so I went to see him talk about 2 months ago in Beverly Hills, and I happened to run into him there, and he told people that I was doing this book. And anyway, the bottom line is, I said, so have you talked to Alex at all? And she says, none of us have talked to Alex since he died, and that she, for some reason, didn't associate with John's family at all. And John had a close brother that I really loved, because at my 50th birthday, I had John there, and I had him with his brother, one of the directors of the show, Bobby Quinn, and they all sat table there, and they this was a dinner that they usually wouldn't go to a birthday party because they didn't want to, John didn't want to be noted. So, but anyway, the bottom line is that I asked myself, what would John be saying? What I'm doing here? And I would say, John would say, Howard, this is so nice of you to take the time, pay the money to do this in acknowledge of me. And, like I say, he was a shy guy. He didn't want really people to know who he really was. And I have to say, I tell stories about who he really was. And I would say that people are moved by it. I mean, they just kind of like, no, that was him?
Yeah.
Because no one knew him. And this is where, there was, when I was thinking of doing this, I had people call me and say, Howard, you knew him better than anybody. John would appreciate it. And this is where, I wanted to get the book out on January 23rd. That's when he died. And I have to say, I say in the book, Our Last Supper. Mm-hmm. And the Last Supper, and if I could just explain the Last Supper.
Go ahead.
I ran into John at the pharmacy in Malibu, and it was, like a Tuesday night. It was like the 5th or 6th of January. And John says, "So, hey, Howard, what are you doing today?" And I said, "Nothing. I do it." He said, "Well, let's go and have dinner." And he said, "Alex is in Pittsburgh." And so anyway, so he picks us up, and we go to a local restaurant in Malibu. And we usually would go to a restaurant there about 6:30 and then be done by 7:30 o'clock and be home by 8. We were the first ones there and the last ones to leave the restaurant. And John was so funny. John kept on telling stories about people that were on the show and this and that and all that. We laughed so hard that the three of us, our stomachs were so sore from laughing so hard. And so it was something special that John wanted us to know. And so on the way back, he drops us off at our house, gets out of the car, hugs my wife, said, "Jane, I love you," kisses her a big kiss, gives me a hug and kiss, and said, "Howard, I love you. You're the best. You're my great friend." And, and John's not like that. John was kind of stuck, even with us somewhat. He was kind of standoffish. Mm-hmm. But coming into the house, my wife and I looked at each other and go like, something's going on. That's not John. John dies 16 days later.
Wow.
And I have to say, I couldn't have a better last time with John. And John knows that. And I think John did that, and he appreciated us, and he wanted to do his last show in front of us.
That was his final gift for you, Howard, and your final gift to him, which you share with readers and fans of Johnny Carson, is your new book, My Friend Johnny: the last 20 years of a beautiful life with Johnny Carson and friends. Available myfriendjohnny.com as well as Amazon.com. Howard Smith, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation. We will have another conversation later in the year on TV Confidential.
I would love that, Ed. Thank you very much. And you be good, Ed. Thank you very much. That was nice.
Take a quick time out, then we'll welcome Emmy Award-winning actress Mariette Hartley when we come back here on TV Confidential.
Now you can get generic Viagra shipped to your door for about $2 a pill. Get the same impact for less. Call Steelman Pills now and get the same blue pill for about $2 a pill. Call now for the 50-pill special and save even more. Plus, get a free bonus.
800-932-2613. 800-932-2613. That's 800-932-2613.